This episode is sponsored in honor of Reb Nosson ben Aster Lahatzlacha Begashmiyos of Vorухnיות. In Sefer Beis Rebbe, it describes Reb Pesach Molastovker as follows. The famous chassid Reb Pesach Molastovker was from the young chassidim of the Alter Rebbe. Later on, he was mekusher to the Mittler Rebbe and to the Tzemach Tzedek. And he was Meirich Yomim throughout all the days of the Tzemach Tzedek. He was a big chassid and a maimik godel b'Torah Chassidus. Reb Nachum, the chayzer of the Tzemach Tzedek, once related that once Reb Pesach walked into the Beis Medrash of the Rebbe, while he, Reb Nachum, was present. Reb Pesach stood while he was looking for a while towards the clock that was hanging on the wall. After a while, Reb Pesach turned to Reb Nachum and he said, I just got it. I just figured out the maimer that I heard from the Rebbe 5 years ago. Once, Reb Pesach Molastovker saw Goyim chasing after a Yiddish girl. And the Pesach was a strong man and a brave person, so he ran after them and fought with them while she escaped. This Goyim called a few of their friends and started to chase Reb Pesach, so he ran away and he hid in a courtyard that was filled with barrels, and he sat under one of the barrels. So the Goyim came there and they started to search, and they were hitting with their swords on all the barrels. One of the hits hit the barrel that he was hiding and injured his skull, injured his head. When Pesach was later on by the Alter Rebbe and he told him about what happened, he complained to the Alter Rebbe that he has tremendous pain in his head. So the Alter Rebbe held on to Pesach's head and the pain went away. When the Alter Rebbe was nostalgic, Pesach started to scream again because of this tremendous pain that he had in his head. Then when he traveled to the Mittler Rebbe, and he told him about it, the Mittler Rebbe also held on to his head, and the pain went away. When the Mittler Rebbe was nostalgic, the pain came back, and he traveled to the Tzemach Tzedek, and the same thing happened. He held on to his head, and the pain went away. Years later, Reb Pesach was sitting with his Talmidim. All of a sudden, he gave out a gishrei, Oy Rebbe, and his headache came back. And they figured out later on that was exactly the moment that the Rebbe, the Tzemach Tzedek, was nostalgic. Later on, he traveled to Lubavitch, to the Rebbe Maharash, and he stood in front of the Rebbe Maharash, face to face, and he cried. And the Rebbe Maharash cried with him together. Tränen haben gefragt und Tränen haben geantwortet. Tears were asking and tears were answering. And since then, he kind of lost the moichin that he had before. He didn't have the same mind that he had before. And since then, he used to daven a few times a day because he would forget that he davened. And he said, when he told him that you're davening more than once, he said, davening has to affect the whole entire day. Therefore, it's just better to daven a few times than not daven at all. Rav Mendel Furtefas once related that Pesach Molastovker was a healthy and strong person. And as much as he was strong, his son Reb Berel was a few times stronger than him. And his son lived in a nearby city. There was a forest between his city and the city of Reb Pesach. And that forest was known to be a dangerous place to travel through because there was robbers who were attacking anybody who traveled through. Therefore, anybody who traveled through the forest always traveled with a group, not alone. However, Berel, Reb Pesach's son, since he was a strong person, he wasn't afraid of them, so he used to travel by himself. This Berel used to celebrate, used to spend the Purim Seudah every year by his father. One year, Reb Pesach was sitting by the table, waiting for his son Berel. Berel wasn't coming. Eventually, Reb Pesach called out, I'm waiting to see Berel. A while passed, and Berel didn't come. So Pesach called out again, I want to see Berel. Another while passed. Pesach called out, I really want to see Berel. And a while passed and Berel walked into the house. When he sat down for the Suda, he said that as always he walked by himself in the forest. And then all of a sudden a big robber attacked him and wanted to kill him. I was fighting with all of my koyach, but I felt that he was stronger than me. And it felt as if I'm about to give up. All of a sudden I got this boost of new koyches and I continued to fight. And a while later, all of a sudden, randomly, I got another boost of koyach. And then a third time it happened. Basically, each time Reb Pesach called out that he wants to see his son, that gave his son Berel a boost of koyach, and he was able to overcome the robber and come. The chassid Reb Zalman Duchman once related that the chassid Reb Pesach Molastovker related to Reb Zalman Duchman's grandfather, the chassid Reb Mordechai Yoel Duchman, that I've never fell into the trap of Rabbanos, of being a Rav. And if it happened once that my brother fell into that trap, I grabbed him and saved him. Once, the Pesach came at an early morning hour to the city of Hamel, and he walked into the house of Reb Levi the Sheikhet. The Pesach said to Reb Levi, Levik, you go to the butcher shop. Please ask your wife that she should prepare for me a cup of hot tea, because without this tea I would not be able to daven. So Reb Levi did so. He asked his wife to prepare a Pesach a cup of hot tea. And when Reb Levi came back home after a day of work, Reb Pesach asked him, why didn't you prepare for me this cup of hot tea like I asked? So Reb Levi said, what do you mean? They actually served you a big cup of tea and you drank up the whole thing? Reb Pesach answered him, ich weiß nicht, I don't know. If you say that I drank it, mistame I drank it. Fidik Rebbe related that the chassid of Pesach Molastovker was one of the young chassidim of the Alter Rebbe. When he was in Yechidus, the Alter Rebbe told him, you need to be a bar das. The Tzemach Tzedek related to the Rebbe Maharash that Reb Pesach had very sharp chushim, very sharp senses by nature. Everything that he was learning it in a very sharp way. Each svara that he was mechadesh was right away slugging it up with a new svara that he came up with. And the Alter Rebbe turned him into a bar das. The Fidik Rebbe continues that when Reb Pesach came out of Yechidus, he was misamek for a few hours in what the Alter Rebbe told him, that he has to become a bar das. And he went to the son of the Alter Rebbe, the Mittel Rebbe, that he should explain him what the Alter Rebbe meant. So the Mittel Rebbe explained him that a bar das is somebody who makes first a true hachana in order to understand that which he wants to learn, to be maskil. And the Mittel Rebbe continued, the big hachana of a bar das is by each person based on his mahus. There must be a hachana. Without a hachana, you cannot be a true mekabel. A true mekabel is when there is an absorption, klita. And the proof that there was a proper absorption is if something grew. There is a tzmicha. Both tzmicha in havana v'asaga, and also tzmicha in avoda b'poyel. Because both havana and avoda come davke after Yegiya. Reb Shmuel Greiden once related, the chassid Reb Pesach Molastovker used to say, throughout the whole year, I gather all the shilas and chassidus that come up in my mind. I plan that when I walk into the Rebbe for Yechidus, I'll be able to ask the Rebbe all my shilas. However, the moment that I walk into the Rebbe's room, all the shilas are misyashev, are answered in my head right away, b'derech mimela. And Reb Greiden explained, each kushya in Torah comes from Klippa. So when Reb Pesach used to walk into the room of the Rebbe where the Shechina is Sheire Begalui, so then his nefesh felt Elikus, and B'mela the Klippos were in his battle, and B'mela all the Shilas were in his battle. The Misnagdim in Reb Pesach city were very jealous of Reb Pesach's davening and Avodah. So what did he do? They got some kishuf machers to do some kishuf on Reb Pesach, that he should put into his head machshavas zaris. And Taki, that's what happened. And Pesach was wondering how come that such machshavas came into his head, machshavas that he wasn't shaykh to at all. So he traveled to the Alter Rebbe, and he said to the Alter Rebbe, he has this machshavas zaris that are shaloi lefi erech his darga. And the Alter Rebbe recognized that this is probably from kishuf. So the Alter Rebbe took an apple. He looked at the apple for a little bit, and then he gave it to Reb Pesach, and he said, Pesach, say that you don't want the apple. So Reb Pesach said, how can I say that I don't want the apple? If it's a lie, I do want the apple. So the Alter Rebbe took back the apple. He looked at it for a little more time. And then again he said to Reb Pesach, say that you don't want the apple. So Reb Pesach said, I can't. I do want the apple. The Alter Rebbe took the apple a third time, looked at it again, and again he said to Reb Pesach, say that you don't want the apple. This time Reb Pesach said, Take, now I don't want the apple. The Alter Rebbe gave him the apple. He ate from it, and it was nisrape from the kishuf. The chassid Reb Zalman Chaikin, which was a Talmud Muvok of Reb Pesach, once walked into Yechidus by the Rebbe Rashab. This was when Reb Zalman Chaikin was already an older chassid. So the Rebbe Rashab got up in his honor, and he asked him to sit down. But Reb Zalman refused. And he said that he wouldn't sit as long as the Rebbe is standing. So the Rebbe told him that I will sit down only after you sit down. So when Reb Zalman saw that the Rebbe is not going to give in, so he didn't have a choice, and he sat down in Yechidus. Only then the Rebbe Rashab sat down. After the sat down, the Rebbe asked Reb Zalman Chaikin that he should tell him something from the Chassid of Pesach Molastovker. So Reb Zalman told the Rebbe Rashab two stories. One story was that when Pesach came to his 50th year, he started to wear a Zaydene Zupitze. He started to wear silk. One time, two neshamis from Shamayim came to him, requesting that he should fix them. But Pesach refused, and he turned those neshamas to the Tzemach Tzedek. That was one story. The other story Reb Zalman Chaikin related was that Pesach used to daven usually be Yechidus, and on weekdays he used to come to shul just to hear Chazaras Hashatz, and on Shabbos he used to leave the shul only after the Chazaras Hashatz of Musaf. One Shabbos he changed his minhag, and instead of leaving the shul after Musaf, he left the shul quickly right after Keser, before the Chazaras Hashatz was over. And when they asked him why, he said, because one of the Choshev people are sitting in a Mizrach, yesterday did a very big Aveira, and I couldn't handle it, so I ran out of the shul. And when Reb Zalman Chaikin told us two stories to the Rebbe Rashab, he noticed that when the Rebbe Rashab heard the first story about the neshamas coming from Eilam Ha'elyon to be fixed, it didn't look like the Rebbe Rashab was very impressed by that. But when he related the second story, that Reb Pesach felt the Aveira of that person in the shul, from that, the Rebbe Rashab was very mispal. Shmuel Groinam related that the explanations of Reb Pesach in Chassidus were focused mainly on the topic of Yesh Me'ayin, the bittul HaYesh to the Ayin and the bittul of the Olamais. Later, when he became older, when Reb Pesach wasn't able to daven long hours anymore, he used to travel on a horse and buggy from one shul to another the whole morning just to hear Kedusha and Baruch Hu. There are two Niggunim known from Reb Pesach Molastovker. One Niggun is Niggun Mem in Sefer HaNiggunim. In Sefer HaNiggunim, it describes this Niggun as follows. So the Pesach used to sing in Russian, as it is in this Niggun. Teichen of the tune, so too the Teichen of the words that are in Russian, express Bitul HaYesh, Bitul Atzmi, to an extent that a person does not feel at all anything holding him back, Begashmiyos. Umemela, there's nothing that could hold him back from being always in a kav of simcha in Avodas Hashem. The loose translation of this niggun is, why should I play when I have nothing? I have a hat, here is a hat without the upper part. I have a jacket, here without any sleeves. As you can tell from the words, it's quite cryptic. We will play it, sung by Harav HaChassid Rav Eli Lipsker from Crown Heights.
Когда мне лего, ай-на-на, яй-на-на, яй-на-на, ай-най, ай-на-на, яй-на-на, ай-на-на, яй-най, ай-на-на, на-на-на. Мою шапку новую без тарелку. Ай-на-на, яй-на-на, ай-на-на, яй-на, ай-на-на, яй-на-на, ай-на-на, яй-на, ай-на-на, мою кафтановый без рукава. Ой-на-на, яй-на-на,
Another Niggun known from Reb Pesach is a Niggun famously called the Zebener cup or Reb Hilal's cup. And the story is told that Reb Pesach Molastovker was once in Lubavitch by the Tzemach Tzedek, and there was a younger man over there from the city of Bobroisk who came then for the first time to Lubavitch. And him and Reb Pesach happened to be in the same pundok, in the same inn. When Reb Pesach heard that this younger man is from Bobroisk, which is where Reb Hillel Paritcher lived at that time, so Reb Pesach told to this younger man, I will teach you a Niggun and give it to Reb Hillel as a present from me. And he taught him a Niggun. When the younger man came home to Bobroisk, first he wasn't brave enough to go over to Reb Hillel, which was the Rav, the Tzaddik, was a famous chassid, to go and teach him a Niggun. So a while later, this younger man happened to be by a bris of one of the chassidim. And Reb Hillel was also there at the bris, sitting at the head of the table. This younger man was sitting over there with his friends, and they started to sing Chassidish Niggunim. While they were singing, this younger man remembered the Niggun that he learned from Reb Pesach Molastovker, and he told his friends that I have this Niggun that Reb Pesach taught me, that I should give it over to Reb Hillel. So some people went over to Reb Hillel, and they told Reb Hillel that there's a younger man over here from Lubavitch that has a shlichus to him from Reb Pesach. So Reb Hillel called over the younger man, and he asked him to sing the Niggun. And he did. When the younger man finished singing the Niggun, Reb Hillel said, their Niggun is gemacht mit cup. That's why it's called the Zebener cup, or Reb Hillel's cup. And Reb Hillel started to have a whole discussion of what should they do with the Niggun. Because Reb Hillel's minhag was that the 3 Niggunim that he will sing at the end of Ne'ilah on Yom Kippur, he used to sing them later on when he came to Lubavitch before the Tzemach Tzedek Seit Chassidus. And since it was already after Sukkot, and he already had the 3 Niggunim from Yom Kippur, he didn't know what to do with this Niggun. And he said, the first Niggun from the 3 Niggunim, I can't change it. To sing Reb Pesach's Niggun as the second Niggun when I come to the Tzemach Tzedek, it wouldn't be michvaydo shel Reb Pesach, it wouldn't be honorable for Reb Pesach. And therefore we should sing it as the third Niggun, the Niggun that right before the Tzemach Tzedek says the Maimer. We will also play this Niggun, sung by Reb Eli Lipsker from Crown Heights.
Ya na na, ya na na, na na ya na ya na na, ay na na ya na 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 ya na, ay na ya na ya na na na, ay na na, ay na na ya na ya na na. Ay na na ya na 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 ya na, ay ya na na ya na, ay na na ya na 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 ya na na, ay na na ya na 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 na, ay na na ya na na ya na. Ya na na ya na 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 na, ay na na ya na 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 na, ay ra ra ya ra ya na na ya na, ay na 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 ya na na ya na na na, ay na na ya na ya na. Ay na na ya na na, ay na ya na, ay na ya na, ara na na ya na na, ana ya na, ay na ra ya ram, ay na na na. Na na ya na na ya na na na, ay na na ya na na ya nam, ay na ra ya ra nam, ya ya ra ya ra ya, ay ra ya ra ya, ara ya Yeah.